What's up, agents, and welcome back to another Division PTS video. Today this is going to be my second video on the Kingbreaker named AR that we've just got to test. I did a quick review on it. I'll link that in the description down below, and it turns out it seems fairly close in DPS to the Carbine 7. By the time I got to the end of that video, which I won't spoil it completely, it really did make me feel like I wanted to do some very basic and crude maths on the numbers to see, with this high damage here, is it actually any good? Quick heads up, this actually has got a 2% expertise bonus damage on it because their saves carried over from last time we were in the PTS. So I'm going to run some very, very crude numbers. I will explain as I go along. But just before we get started, be sure to hit subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and hit the bell so you're notified when I upload more Division videos. Or come over to Twitch, twitch.tv/DJTICKLE, where I could be streaming content like this right now. So here is a very crude spreadsheet that I've just knocked together. It really doesn't take into account any kind of extra damage variance. So no talents on your chest piece or your backpack or anything like that. Literally just focused on crit chance, crit damage, headshot damage and RPM, and that is it. So these numbers won't match what you're shooting in the range, but I really tried to get a gist for, is this Kingbreaker actually any good? So first of all, we'll look at the Kingbreaker. The weapon damage is my total weapon damage. Then you've got crit chance at 59%. I don't know why I put that there. I've actually done as if I'm 100% critting or not, but you'll see in a little bit. My crit damage with it is 173%. My headshot is 90. RPM for this gun is 500, and it does 8.3 rounds per second. So as you can see here, a non-crit headshot comes to this number here. That is the headshot damage multiplied by perfect flatline, which is 20%. That's always up because I'm using the attachment. You can see. Come on, game. There we go, the linked laser pointer. So I always have that up because I think that's kind of the best way of using this talent. You don't want to be waiting 2 kills to get this 20% pulsed damage. I'm not going to go through additive or multiplicative damage in this. I'm just going to show you the numbers. So headshot, and then we've got perfect flatline, and then that's going to be then times by the weapon damage. And as you can see, a non-crit headshot is going to come out at 308,163. I'll come to the RPM in a little bit. A crit headshot, as you can see, a little bit of an extra additive damage in there. So headshot and crit damage, they're additive, and then times that by the multiplicative items, the perfect flatline and the weapon damage. And that comes out at 498,412. A non-crit body shot, perfect flatline times the weapon one, really easy, 162,191. And then a crit body shot, 325,441, and that's crit damage times by perfect flatline times by the weapon damage. You can see the formulas flicking up at the top there if you're at all interested, but by all means drop me a couple of questions in Discord or come by the stream and feel free to ask any extra questions, or even drop them down below here on YouTube as well. Then we're going to flick over to the Carbine 7, and you can see it's got lower weapon damage. It's got the same crit chance, but with this, what we're going to do is the calculations. We're going to do this with strained as if it's on at 100%. Now, strained does take 2.5 seconds to activate to get to max, but it's just not a really easy calculation to have it going on off. So we're going to go with it at 228 crit shot damage, so that's the extra 50% from strained. Headshot damage at 90%. RPM for this is 790, and it does 13.2 rounds per second. So as you can see from this, the headshot damage, the non-crit headshot damage on the Carbine 7, it's just headshot times by weapon damage because we've not got extra crit damage. Because that's what strained is all about. And if you need reminding about strained, gain 10% critical hit damage for every 0.5 seconds you are firing, and stacks up to 5 times. Now, obviously, I'm hitting a headshot in this example. It's not a crit headshot, so no extra damage applied. But what you can see from that comes at 207,227, lower than our Kingbreaker crit, non-crit headshot. Then a crit headshot at 341162. So that's headshot plus crit damage times by the weapon damage. And that comes out at 341162. Again, lower than our Kingbreaker, which is 498412. Then we've got the non-crit body shot, which is just the weapon damage basically in this example, because with no extra gun talent. All our gun talent for this is all about crit, and that's 109067. Then the crit body shot is 243001, and that's crit damage times by the weapon damage. Again, lower than the Kingbreaker, which is 352441. But self-explanatory, you might think, because the Kingbreaker just hits harder. It's got 135k to the Carbine 7 at 109k. Where we need to factor in then another variable is the RPM at 790 and at 500. And then you can see from the other columns here at the end this is where everything changes. I'm not so bothered about the RPM column. I'm going to go by the rounds per second column because the numbers just get huge. But what you can see here, very, very crude, all I've done is times our damage that we've calculated previously by 8.3, and that's for the Kingbreaker. And as you can see, that comes out at 2568021, and that's for the non-crit headshot. So then if we go down to the Carbine 7, which it does 790 RPM, which is 13.2, and we times the non-crit headshot number at 207227, remember this is with no talent up at this point, that actually does more damage. It does 2728493. So already it's looking like the Carbine 7 pulls ahead, because that's damage without strained even proc. Then we look at the crit headshot. So on the Kingbreaker at per second, we've got 4153436. But then when we come down to the Carbine 7, we've got 4491961, and again that is beating the Kingbreaker with the assumption that you've got strained maxed out. Non-crit body shot, very familiar now, it's becoming the same. So on the Kingbreaker we've got 1351590, but then on the Carbine 7 146049. And then a crit body shot comes out at 2937005 on the Kingbreaker, but then 3199517. So it does look like my initial impressions were correct with this normal build. So I'm just going to flip back to all red build, none of the new gear in here apart from the gun. That the Carbine 7 will still come out ahead just because of how fast the RPM is. Who knows if that's going to be the same with any of the new gear sets, but as it stands, although Kingbreaker is right up there, it's definitely not going to be our number one gun for DPS against the Carbine 7. Again, you know, these are very crude calculations. It accounts for strain being up all of the time. There's no damage to targets out of cover, there's no damage to armor, there's no health damage, there's no vigilance, there's no glass cannon, there's none of that factored in. All them would normally factor in the calculation, so these numbers are not going to be the ones that you're going to hit in the range, because I stripped everything out just to kind of get a crit damage and a headshot damage calculation with the gun damage, because I was super intrigued with it being 135, if it's going to be any good or not. Hopefully that made sense. But I just really wanted to come back and kind of prove my thoughts rather than using the gun range DPS that we know can be a little bit skewed. But in this case, it's turned out that actually in the last video when we did the review, we were right. Carbine probably nudges ahead. Kingbreaker coming in a close second. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to hit that subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.